Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to sit with you mamas and talk about kindness and worthiness and knowing that we're enough, and how I have really been healing and learning even with my girls and teaching them that they are enough, and what books have really been shifting that or pivoting that entire journey. So if you'd like to hear more, then let's get started. Hey, if you are new to the channel, I'm Tasha. This is Tasha Pivots, where I talk about all things mamahood and homeschool and how I'm pivoting through this journey. And I am so glad that you decided to hang out with me for a few moments of your day. I want to make a quick announcement. I'm going to be doing a Q&A next week, and I would really love if all of you, it doesn't matter big or small, if you have some questions for me that I've never answered or that you've just been thinking of or even think of as you're watching this video, please put that in the comments below. I will be tallying those up. I will say thank you to all of your comments, but I won't respond and answer them until I do the Q&A video. Okay? And then second, if you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, please go over to TashaPivots.com. You can know that you're going to get a newsletter once a month. It's going to be filled with a note of encouragement, any news that is going on with me, the books that I'm going to be reading in that month, and also the different things that I'm going to be a part of and different extensions to Tasha Pivots. Also, to my lowly veil mamas, be looking in your inbox. There is some new mail in there. And yeah, let's get into it. So I just noticed, it's not that I just noticed, I've been feeling this weight of, like, you know, the world's trying to find its normalcy again. And in the interim of that, I recognize how many people are struggling with just knowing that they're enough. And they were struggling with that before the things that were happening in this world. But like, I recognize how much I struggled with knowing that I'm enough. And how some of these books, especially the children's books that I'm going to be showing you, are books that I have been able to find so much healing in because of the way it was written, because I didn't see books like this when I was growing up. Now, excuse me, some of these books you have probably already seen here on my channel, because they're either in my monthly read alouds or it's just books that I've been collecting that I can't wait to share. So, you know, bear with me if it's something you've already seen. I also have a few books that I'm currently reading for me as a mama that is helping equip me through the different ebbs and flows of motherhood that I just wanted to share with you guys as well. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to start with the kids' books first. In no particular order. Okay, I'll start with this one. This is I Like Myself by Karen Beaumont. I've had this book for 6 years. It is still being printed. You can still find it. Usually you'll find a miniature version of it. It's so funny. The first time I read it, I teared up because I always struggled with liking who I was. I was very self-aware as a kid, but I still struggled with, am I enough, and me liking me as I am, is that even a real thing, right? And raising girls, it has been very important to me to raise my children to be confident and to have a beautiful self-esteem. Recognize that if they're struggling with something, it's okay, but knowing at the core of who they are, that they are enough. And they are beautifully and wonderfully made, no matter what they see, no matter what they think they hear. But the truth is of them knowing truth. And I just feel like this book is so encouraging about this little girl. And this also, side note, it's my favorite illustrator, children's illustrator, which is David Cowtrow. He just has such a whimsical way of telling his stories through his artwork. And I've read this so many times that I pretty much know it from cover to cover, but it's I like myself, I'm glad I'm me, there's no one else I'd rather be. And I read this so much to my oldest that she knows it by heart, and my youngest loves for us to read it. The author also created I Ain't Gonna Paint No More, which is a great toddler book, as well as like kindergarten book if you guys want to do an art little switcheroo thing. You do that book and actually have them do it of like, I ain't gonna paint no more. It's a great rhyme of them learning the different parts of their body. And so yeah, check that out. The next one, it's so interesting. This was a part of my read alouds in the fall, and it was actually part of a book basket in the Year of Learning, Year in 100 Acre Woods recommendations. And I was like, I recognize the author. He's done a lot of Christian writing for adults, but I didn't know he did children's books. And I've read a couple of other ones, but this one, honestly, I literally didn't make it through the end of the book. I cried that much. Like I heaved. I was crying so much with the girls when I read this to them. I could barely finish it. And that is The Oak and the Acorn. It is just a beautiful, beautiful story. Beautifully written. I think even adults, if they have children or don't, or you know someone who struggles with just knowing that they have a purpose, and that purpose doesn't look like anyone else's purpose, and need to be reassured that, but it can't come from you because you are they expect it from you. Get them this book. Order it now. The link is in the description. It is The Oak and the Inside the Acorn by Max Lucado. And it tells this beautiful, beautiful story about how this acorn gets separated from his mother, and he gets planted. And at first he's like, am I supposed to be like the flowers? Am I supposed to be like this or that? And eventually, as he keeps talking and as he keeps evolving, he recognizes his purpose, and how the way he gives shade, and how the way he grows and withstands certain changes, and all the time that goes by. And I don't want to ruin it. Please check it out if you haven't already. It is a beautiful, beautiful story. So there's that one. The next one I have, which I've mentioned to you guys before, it is again my favorite illustrator, David Castro, and that is When God Made You. I will bring a close up so you guys can see. If you have girls, it is the cutest story for you to have your girls to read to them. But I think nonetheless, the story, the poetry, and the words of truth that is written in this beautiful book is all that I could ever try to muster up to teach my children in a book. But it's just, there's just so many different things. I'm going to read a little passage in there that I love. One of my favorites. I'm just going to try to find it for you guys real quick. But this, it's just so pretty. I'm so like, all the watercolor makes it so beautiful. God pictured your nose and all 10s of your toes. Sound of your voice, God had it composed. The lines on your hands, your hair, every strand. God knew every detail like it was all planned. I just love that. I love that. Check that out for sure. Next one, I have mentioned this one to you guys before, Seeds and Trees. This was another book that, like, I think I have a thing with trees. I have a thing with seeds, you'll gather from all these books. And I think that's what caught my eye about it at first. I didn't really read the back. I kind of judged the front of the cover and I was like, oh, this looks fun, grabbing that. And I was pleasantly surprised of the storyline and the way Brandon Walden wrote this beautiful book of just sharing how, be careful what you water. Be careful what you believe, and then tag on to yourself. And it's this beautiful prince who's got his little bag of beans, and he's going and planting trees, and he's thinking he's just doing the right thing. But every time someone speaks negative over him, or he speaks negative over himself, and he goes and plants that seed, this tree grows, but it's dark. And when he plants things, when he's in joy and hope and excitement, and that tree grows and it's healthy, and you see the difference in how those dark trees try to take over the light. And then but the beautiful part of this overall is how he recognizes that he can uproot that tree. He can cut down that tree. He can replant his seeds and restore that part of him, and recognizing, like, what you water will surely grow. And if you want to water joy and kindness and hope and love and all of the things that we really want and dear to our heart to live in this world, then we've got to water those things and prune and cut the things that don't. So great, great, great book, Seeds and Trees. I mentioned this one last month I think it was last month or maybe it was February. This was part of our kindness. We were really focusing on kindness for the month. And Kindness Grows is, again, that same concept of like, how much things can change if we just shift our words. I think it's a great book for if you've got toddlers, especially young little kids that are learning to get along and are learning to express themselves and say how they feel, but not in a way that will be disgraceful or mean to those around them. Great, great, great book. And then lastly, my daughter was seeing me prep for this video, and she's like, what about my Kindness magazine? And I love that because she was like, I really like that. You should share that one. So this is a recommendation by my 7-year-old, and that is Kazoo. I found this in Barnes & Noble. I used to be a big magazine snob because I was in fashion design, and I just loved collecting and researching and reading between the pages of magazines. But I so often when I'm in Barnes & Noble, I'll kind of just look through, keep a tally on what's new, what's happening. I don't really collect them anymore, but I always do also look in children's magazines because I was a huge children's magazine collector as a kid too. And I really like this one. It's 64 pages of peace, love, joy, and friendship. And it has it's called the Kindness issue. I believe this was for spring 2020, so this was last year, but I held on to it. I don't know how it got lost in my piles of books, but I brought it out, I want to say about a month ago, and I gave it to Zoe, and she just ate it up. There was just different pockets, like, yeah, she's got torn out activities inside that you can do, but it also gives them little subtle reminders here where I think I just saw it. It was like, hey, don't forget tonight when you go to sleep, think of 5 things that you're grateful for. Think of 5 things and say them. I was like, what? Yes, give it to me. Tell my kids this. And it tells, like, they talk about, how there's some storylines in there of things that happens with kids and what can happen when we say things to other people and how do we respond and how we feel about it and how this little girl shares it with her friend. And then it says kindness is revolution. Hello. So this one's more of like a girls magazine, I will say that, but I think you could even find there's different issues for each season, and there's things like little questionnaires for them to take, little clippings for them to have as reminders of things that can make them feel worthy, but also to give out and give to a worthy cause. So much encouragement happening in this, and I really like that. There's also an artist focus in there. Y'all know I like that. So check that out. I'll link them below to this magazine. And then now, if you're still with me, I really wanted to share some of the books that I've been reading, what I'm going to currently be reading, as well as what I'm rereading. So the first one, I shared it a couple videos or probably a couple weeks ago where I can't put it down. As you can see, all of my tabs have gotten crazy. This is Fighting Forward by Hannah Brencher. I can't keep shouting out her name enough. This was a recommendation from a friend, and I have not put it down. Your nitty-gritty guide to beating the lies that hold you back. And it is absolutely amazing of a book. It's very easy read, but it just is filled with these little nuggets, y'all. It's got some nuggets in there. So I was just reading chapter 10 this morning, and she gives actual clear instructions of what to do, but it's talking about failure. And, failure is a part of our journey. And I think why we get seeped into this attitude and this posture of we're not enough is because we don't allow ourselves to fail. We don't allow ourselves to feel that failure is just meaning that it's time for us to keep growing, and that we've got to now take the wisdom from that failure and then apply it so that we don't repeat it again. And so I really loved this book, and I'm continuously reading this. For the first time ever, I'm choosing to only read a chapter a day instead of me getting lost in a book and trying to finish the whole book within one setting. So if you haven't already, please check out Hannah Brencher's Fighting Forward. Really, really great book. One that I actually put on my newsletter for the month of April that I'm going to be reading. It was after me listening to a podcast, and she was a speaker on it, a guest speaker, and it's Andi Kobler's Try Softer. And it's about, you know, we are always told to try harder as mothers, try harder as spouses, try harder at being parents and or just being a woman or being a human being, honestly. And this is just giving you a refreshing reproach on how to not just live and evolve in survival mode. And so I'm really excited about just diving into this book and reading it and peeling back the layers and taking in the things that I can use in my toolbox, to knowing that I'm enough, and that through being enough that I can try softer and not so hard. So that's a great one. Another one, I actually had this on my list for books for the month of March, but I got so engulfed in other books that I barely made it through a couple chapters, and I'm ready to finish it up because it is wonderful. I just was trying to finish the ones I was already reading. And this is A Year of Living Kindly, choices that will change your life and the world around you. And I already loved in the first chapter where she talks about the difference between being nice and being kind. And I was like, oh my word, this woman knows me, because I always used to associate them as one and the same, and they're not. And honestly, how can I be kind to anyone if I don't know how to be kind to myself? And so I'm really excited about reading this one and taking it slowly and just, you know, learning to be kind in this world, especially within a year. And then lastly, this is kind of a sneak peek for those lovely lowly veil mamas. This is Missional Motherhood. I'm going to give you guys another close-up, get my face out of there. I'm really, really excited about the everyday ministry of motherhood and the grand plan of God, because if you've been on my channel for some time, or if you've seen my video where I talk about my testimony and how God was constantly pressing me into this role that I never asked for, wasn't planning for. I didn't have a whole breakdown picture and blueprint of motherhood, and I wanted to be a mom. I simply just wanted to be successful, and I wanted to make something of myself and all those layers. And I love how God was like, but I know you better than you know yourself. And so I'm really excited about reading this with my lowly veil mamas. But honestly, I wanted to encourage all mamas to read this one, even if you are not a Christian, but just to have an understanding of like why we're here, why we were chosen, why God handpicked us to be the parents of these beautiful children. And even though we are never feel that equipped, He equipped us with everything and all the things that we need in order to raise His children. So I'm really excited about reading this one. Again, I'm going to do a close-up for you guys. This is Missional Motherhood by Gloria Furman. And so, yeah, these are my books. This is what I'm reading. I am always excited about books, and I'm really learning to have this love and appreciation for the self-help realm of things, but only if it's enriching what I already know, or also giving me new tools to handle and go and take the steps in life when it comes to this journey as a mama, and enriching my children to know and their way, if their self-awareness and self tools to be able to continue to recognize that no matter what is happening in this world, they are exactly who they're supposed to be. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a warm thumbs up if you did. Hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, you have a beautiful and wonderful day. Don't forget to put in the comments below what you're reading, if you have any recommendations, as well as if you have any questions for me for my Q&A. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.